Good evening. I'd like to call to order this public meeting for the 2024 tax levy for the Round Lake Area School District Board of Education on December 16th, 2024 at 7 p.m. If I can get started first with a roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Here.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
Mr. Jewett?
Here.
Thank you. And we will turn it over to Dr. Bailey for the final tax levy.
Good evening. Happy holidays. You have this material in your packet. I reviewed it, the full report at the last finance meeting. And I'd like to open it up for any questions. Nothing's changed during the last month. And so if you'd like me to present again, I can. However, you might not want me to. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Just the one area I just want to, and you'll see this in January, the tax levy amount is probably, I think, 1.25 million in the increase. That's about a $400,000 drop year over year. So that will be reflected in the budget assumptions, and the reason is because of the change in the CPI. So just a gentle reminder to the board.
And
just wanted to thank you for the FAQs. I actually thought that was a super nice touch for like the folks that could go online and look at the packet. They would probably not know some of the acronyms, so I just wanted to thank you for that. And excuse me.
no, that's good. I was just going to say,
Thank you.
this was at finance. Yeah, and of course, I had mentioned to Dr. Bailey last meeting that I appreciate having the FAQs in there for community and for other board members. And then just to note that it is an action item on the regular board agenda, and with should the board pass that motion, it would be submitted to the county tomorrow.
Hearing no additional questions, we will go to public comment. As always, members of the public will participate in public comment during board meetings by attending in person or submitting electronic public comment form. Please note that speakers in all types are limited to 3 minutes. We did not have any electronic public comment for this special meeting. Do we have any local public comment? Hearing none, we will now adjourn this meeting at 7:02 p.m. and I will restart here in just a second. And I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Round Lake Area School District Board of Education on December 16th, 2024 at 7:03 p.m. If I can get started first with a roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Here.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Here.
Mr. Jewett?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
All right, first up is our Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we do have a posted agenda. If I can get a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Here. Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. We have an approved agenda, and first up on that is special recognitions and presentations, and that would be our starting that off is our December Athletes of the Month and our athletic director, Mr. Karolzak.
Good evening, everybody. As always, I'm very happy to be here, and it is my honor and privilege to present our December Athletes of the Month. We will start off with our boys basketball program. Our December Male Athlete of the Month is Jaquan Jamerson. Here to recognize Jaquan is head boys basketball coach Jack Hanza.
All right. Jaquan has been a huge impact on our basketball program this year. In his debut against Harvard, he got 23 points, seven rebounds, 7 steals, and 4 assists. Last game against Lakes, he had 27 points. He is our team leader right now in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. So he's been a huge impact for us on the court. And just a quick side story of the Jaquan I know off the court. Jaquan has this unique talent where he has this ability to be very humble, but at the same time, he has this confidence, this swagger about him that you don't see in many kids. It's very special. And a story that always comes to mind about that is his first day of school, I was his human geography teacher. And I told the kids all they had to do was stand up at their desk, introduce themselves, and I said, who would like to go first? Jaquan not only volunteered to go first, he got up in front of the whole classroom and introduced himself and talked about his interests, his hobbies, and that just speaks volume to the kid who he is off the court. So Jaquan Jamerson is a heck of a kid on the court and off the court, and it's my honor to introduce him as our Athlete of the Month.
Congrats to Jaquan. Now our female athlete of the month. I believe this is her second time winning it. From our girls wrestling program, Riley Conkiao. Here to recognize Riley is our head girls wrestling coach, Ender Conkiao.
So, disappointed by last season's finish, Riley dedicated herself to gaining experience and strength during the offseason. She represented Team Illinois for the 16U dual team that took 8th in the country and won 2 matches individually at nationals. She also committed herself to lifting consistently for the first time in her career this offseason. All of this work culminated in her 17-0 start to this season, with 14 falls and the other 3 being forfeits. This means that in every match she has pinned her opponent, and otherwise they didn't show up to the mat to wrestle her. Along the way, she won the Niles West and Waukegan tournaments, helping her team score top 10 finishes in each of those tournaments as well. Riley's a captain and a natural leader on this team, and also showcased by her participation in Panther Voices, the Student Athlete Leadership Team, and Student Council. Having her brother as the coach, you'd think she'd try to slack off or use that in her favor, and yet she's always determined to be the hardest worker in the room. Your female athlete of the month, Riley Conkiao.
Good evening, everybody. We will be doing our Youth of the Month for the Exchange Club, and I'd like to bring up to the microphone Dan Birch, who's a fellow Exchange Club member and also the Round Lake Park Police Chief.
Having to multitask here and push buttons at the same time is could be a challenge for me. But thank you again. Good evening. My name is Dan Birch. I am the chief of Round Lake Park, but also here tonight representing the Round Lake Area Exchange Club. And I'm here to present the Youth of the Month for December. This evening we're going to be recognizing Logan Potts. Logan, if you can come up. The Round Lake Area Exchange Club, as many of you know, is the oldest service organization in the United States. With one of the main pillars, one of the 4 pillars that we focus our efforts towards is youth programs. And so Youth of the Month is a cornerstone for the Round Lake Area Exchange Club. This is a program that we have taken near and dear and committed to not just the Youth of the Month, but our scholarship programs for the youth of the Round Lake area every year. But the Youth of the Month award honors outstanding students who have exhibited excellence in academics, leadership, and service. We receive these students through nominations from their counselors and through the school administration. And again, Logan is our Student of the Month. Want to briefly just touch on some of the highlights that has earned Logan this award or recognition. Logan's academic achievements are nothing but short of extraordinary, maintaining a perfect 4.0 GPA while challenging himself with 10 advanced placements and 10 honors classes is a testament to his intellectual curiosity and diligence. His involvement in the art club, Scholastic Bowl, chess club, music honors society speaks to his diverse interest and his willingness to contribute to the various facets of school life. One of the most heartening aspects of Logan's character is his genuine kindness and his innate ability to bring out the best in others. His volunteer work within the music program and the band concerts reflect a willingness and selflessness that is rare and admirable. So on behalf of the Round Lake Area Exchange Club, I'd like to, it's my honor and privilege to present our Youth of the Month Award and gift certificate to the truly impressive and deserved recipient, Logan Potts. So we have a certificate of achievement here that says Logan Potts is proudly awarded as the outstanding student in Lake County, a student that exemplifies the Exchange Club's core values of family, community, and country.
Hello, my name is Logan Potts. I'm currently a senior. Throughout my years in high school, as well as prior to high school, I've been involved in a variety of activities that have shaped who I am today. I've been part of Scouts in 2nd grade, playing in band since 5th, being on the Scholastic team since 7th grade, joined the marching and jazz bands my freshman year, and last year I also became a member of the chess team, Triumph Music Honor Society. In my spare time, I like to listen to and write music, play guitar, play Dungeons and Dragons, and play video games. I have a deep-seated passion for music and have been consuming some form of music ever since I was little. In 2nd grade, I joined Cub Scouts and then advanced to Boy Scouts. And while in Boy Scouts, I engaged in community service projects like cleaning up roadside trash, assisting with my troops' pancake breakfast events, as well as ushering at events. In my junior year, I joined the Triumph Music Honor Society, where I would do various projects like helping to cut snowflakes for the Winter Spectacular concert, caroling, decorating the event space, and cleaning up. Even going as far as to play with one of the lower bands. I've also, as of this last marching band season, become the trumpet captain, which comes with responsibilities like helping the members of my section, making important decisions with other members of leadership. I've also, by my band director's request, been helping out some of the trumpet players in the concert band, like with correct grip, writing the correct fingerings for the notes, and other general fundamentals of the instrument. I've enjoyed assisting my peers with music and giving back to the music program here at Round Lake High School. I'm passionate about teaching others not only how to play an instrument, but also about the power of music itself. Whether it's inspiring someone to learn or providing comfort during hardships, I currently have a cumulative GPA of 4.0 and have applied to the following universities and colleges. Lake Forest College, Eastern Illinois University, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, Loyola, Northwestern University, And while I'm excited for what's next, I also look forward to the possibility of returning to my roots someday. Only time will tell.
All right, next up is communications to the board. We are going to skip A at this moment, the Ed Foundation update, as I don't see anybody here from the Ed Foundation. And we will go to Dr. Lamping with the purchase of 2 Ford Super Duties.
Thank you. Back on October 7th, 2024, the Board of Education approved a position decrease and a position increase of 2 maintenance worker, 2 positions. Along with those changes was the need to purchase 2 vehicles, plows, and equipment. This is just informational that we were able to secure the 2 vehicles. Although we looked locally toward Antioch, we were able to find them down in Bull Valley Ford. These are 2 Ford 250 Super Duties. They actually did come with plows. One was $59,991 and 3 cents, and one was $59,741 and 3 cents. This total was $119,732 and 6 cents. We had $125,000 allocated in the budget amendment document for this, along with $16,000 allocated for the plows. This $119,000 plus did include plows as well. So we received the vehicles. We're going to bring them to a future board meeting so you can see your investment. But we will be assigning these to maintenance workers who automatically have plow duties as part of our plow team. If there's any questions?
So no questions, but if I can add, again, Dr. Lampy mentioned how this came before the board, but just really want to highlight and send appreciation that this came in under budget. Of course, we know how we are with the budget. So again, just want to appreciate being resourceful and bringing these purchases well under budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is our CEDAW Governing Board recap, and that would be Mr. Jewett.
All right, so in the board packet, you can see there are 2 documents that are attached. One is the presentation that we saw at the meeting, and then also the summary. Some of the highlights or the pieces of it that for the board to be aware of. One is that there's the continuing improvement plan, making good progress, and it was really encouraging to see the things that are getting done by the team that's there. It really does seem like they are making really good progress. Really seems that from what we can see, the structure that is getting in place and the 2 superintendents that are the interim superintendents that are there now seem to be getting a handle on what's been happening. Some of the biggest pieces, and obviously the if you didn't see it, go back. It's a reader. But there were some discoveries. So Dr. Johns, so there is going to be a change in the budget. There's an amended budget for 2025 based on some discoveries made by Dr. Johns, who is the new, I want to say CFO for CEDAW. And a couple of things, just some highlights. There were originally construction costs budgeted for 500,000. It was actually 6.2 million outstanding. So that was one variant. There were salaries that were off by about 1.6 million, and there was some contract agency stuff that was about 4.85 million. So there were a few. I knew I had to bring this to you.
Missed it by that much.
Just this much. So you can imagine. There are two things you can imagine. One is, oh man, he did a spectacular job. The team there, who is there to go ahead and right the ship, has done a really good job at this is what it is, this is what we're seeing, and this is what we believe needs to happen to go ahead and get this right. So one of the amended budget was approved. They had to dig into fund balance to go ahead and make that happen, which is, of course, you probably know this, Jen, it affects the Moody rating slightly. Yes, and they're going to feel that one. And yes, also we're going to feel that one. Yeah. And part of the challenge is if you don't budget appropriately and don't communicate appropriately, sooner or later it's going to catch up to you. And things cost what they cost. And so for us, Dr. Johns and Dr. Thomas spoke of a need for a 15 to a 17% one-time increase in tuition for 26. Now the one time, so my question was, are we talking one time and then it goes back? Are we talking one time and then the standard increases? It was one time, then the standard increases after that. I'm like, okay. There's some background in there if you want to dig in a little bit more about what were some of the factors that attributed to that, but that is, it is where we are. Any questions about that?
Just the budget assumptions reflect a $400,000 to $500,000 increase in CEDAW tuition for Round Lake. So I built that in. Just to give you a kind of a relative barometer, typically the increase is between 30 and 40,000 for us. The good news is, despite the decrease in tax levy revenue, you'll see this in January. We've anticipated a reduction in interest on our investments. We built in the increase in the new teacher contract. We're still in a positive budget position. So I just want to reassure the board that we're in good shape. But that CEDAW number is big. And like Mr. Jewett said, there's no way around it. You got to fix it. And I mean, I think I just did quick math. There was like $10 million in errors basically. So
just to let you know, and that the energy that you're feeling right now was really apparent
negative,
in the room.
though.
That was
Negative
really
energy.
apparent. So there's that. There was some also there was talk about the new superintendent search, but the status of where the process that they're in, and they're making progress in terms of what's happening. The desire is to go ahead and extend, instead of looking for the new superintendent yet, just continue to extend the two superintendents to just continue to do this, to start to make sure they have adequate time to right the ship. And so, and then the search for the superintendent, though, would begin next year. They would pause it to give time for an appropriate search and then for them to continue to get programs in place and to continue the work that they're doing. Third, there were some questions from the open forum after that, right? There was a lot of energy. So some of the questions concerns future agenda items are, what ways can we rebuild CEDAW's reputation? Moving forward, is there a consistent way to make sure the budget is accurate? Some of it is in the auditing. The audit is, that's a fancy little tidbit. About 2 years behind in the audit. Yes, so somebody had actually asked, if I did this in my job, I wouldn't be at my job anymore. What happened to them? And somebody replied, well, they're not in their job anymore. So I'm like, okay. What deadline should the governing board be aware of? How can the governing board members be more helpful and fulfill their role in the board? Actually, this one was mine. How can the governing board members be more helpful and fulfill their role in the board? And someone said, there's an open executive board member role. And I said, I wasn't asking you for more work. That wasn't really what I was trying to do. And Dr. Mendoza's is there, so I can't. Thank you. And and there were a few other pieces, but that was the excitement for the night. Anything else?
You have a question? Besides having the open executive position that they mentioned to ask those right questions or make sure oversight is happening as the role of that board, what else do they say could happen? I'm trying to, it's a lot of information coming at me that I'm just still trying to digest because
we experienced and as a matter of fact, there were plenty of the government board members we have to bring this back to our. I got to tell Annette, right? So how do you do this? So how can we put those pieces in place? So one, that will be something that will be continued on the ongoing agenda. Dr. Johns had said that when they are uncovering those pieces, so they're doing that work, which is great. One of the questions are, how can we ensure that it's not just person specific, right? Great, you go, you move on, and then what? Keeping track of when the audit is done is actually a really key piece. That was a key indicator that stuff isn't right.
Right, yeah, because that's going to be part of my question, just because we have an audit and I have conversations with our auditor. There's a preliminary meeting, the audit happens, there's a post meeting. So obviously that wasn't happening. So they are now taking those steps because to fall 2 years behind in an audit, and this is CEDAW, which affects many districts. It's not unlike when Round Lake went through its financial turmoil, it affected this community, but CEDAW affects many. Sure. So I just want to make sure that. Some steps are being taken because as Dr. Mendoza mentioned, we had some preliminary conversations regarding budget assumptions for next year, and the increase for CEDAW is very hefty. Yeah, substantial, hefty. It's ginormous. And luckily, even with that and doing everything else that we need to take care of our own house, we still sit in a great position. But we just need to make sure that CEDAW is doing what they need to do. Because, again, this affects many districts. It's not just their house.
Was there?
So what are they doing for that audit? You said they're kind of correcting it, but how are they?
Okay, so they're getting caught up on the audit. We're 2 behind. So they're close, I think, if I remember correctly, close to getting the other one done and then are winding up the 2023. Start winding up 2023. So they're not finished yet.
Do you know who do they use for their audit? Is there a way to find out?
We can find out.
Does that make a difference?
No, but I'm just curious, the firm that they're using, that also the firm itself should be reaching out to the district, or in this case, CEDAW.
So what I would say is I sat in on a meeting when we were trying to do the last audit, and as a board member, I mean, I'm sitting like you, I'm assuming the information in front of me is accurate, but they couldn't even get the auditors the information they needed to complete the audit. Basic information. I sat on, I think there were 2 or 3 meetings in a row where the auditors were on the conference call and they were asking for information. They were updating the full board. And the individual responding was saying the right things, but it wasn't accurate and it wasn't truthful. So I'm just, it's, look, even at this table, I'm not trying to be funny, but the deck Mr. Bailey put together that you saw up there, you have to put trust in, okay, those are the right numbers. I mean, you're not digging into the system, and so that was the issue. I mean, I was complaining about a structural deficit 6 months ago. Because nobody was saying anything, and I'm looking at spreadsheets going, this is not good, and it turns out that was like a good picture of what actually is happening. So I will say that they have the right leaders there. Both of the interims have been cooperative superintendents before. They're very, very good. One has been the Illinois Superintendent of the Year. They're Mr. John. Do you remember Becky Allard? She was our interim. She's picking up for Mr. Johns. She's a detailed person. So they have the right people there. I just think once they get the audit done, they'll get back on cycle. And to be honest, I was thinking about getting off the board, but because of this, I'm staying on another cycle. And I think it's up to the executive board also to provide the right oversight. So
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that next question is, just like we have here, we have committees for some of that work. I mean, if that were to happen here at Round Lake, it wouldn't just be Dr. Bailey or whoever sits in that chair. It would also be the finance committee as well. And I know I ask a lot of questions, and I hound on this budget because I got on this board when we were in a bad position. So I just want to make sure that CEDAW, the board, and even the exec board are asking those same questions, because now it's not the same situation, but they're in a difficult financial situation, and those right questions have to be asked.
Once again, highlighting everybody needs an Annette. This is what happens.
I just want to make sure those questions are being asked, because again, we're having to absorb a significant increase in our budget. And I know it's not just us, it's many districts. It's not just Round Lake. So I'm just, it's a lot. I appreciate you shared all that detail. It's a lot for me to digest. It's a lot of negative, or, so yeah, we just have to ask those questions as well of CEDAW.
You should see when a slide like that comes up in a room full of about 50 people. It was amazing.
I'm pretty sure I probably would have went into cardiac arrest if I would have saw that. I appreciate you sharing all that, Mr. Jewett.
Thus ends my update from CEDAW.
Thank you for that. And next up is the strategic plan monthly update for December 2024. Everything that is in the packet is there. And
no, we had an extensive update at the last meeting, so nothing verbal, but yeah, you have information in the packet. We're making good progress.
Any questions for the administrative team based off of the update? Hearing none, we'll now move to reviewing contracts less than 1,000 as posted below and on the deck. Any questions for the administrative team on contracts less than 1,000? All right, hearing none there, we will move to opportunity for public comment. As always, members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or by submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Electronic public comments will be accepted up until noon on the day of the regularly scheduled meeting, and the public commenter will be contacted to confirm identity. Once confirmed, the electronic public comment will be provided to all board members in written form, and the link to the electronic public comment form is online. We did not have any electronic public comment. Seeing no one here local, I'm going to assume that we have no local public comment, so we will transition straight into the superintendent's report and Dr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Board President Francisco and Board of Education. Round Lake High School Choir Director Bobby Olson has shared that we are proud to announce that senior Carlos Vilches has been selected to participate in the Honors All-State Choir as part of the Illinois Music Education Conference in January through February of 2025. This group represents the top 5% of ILMEA District 7. He will join over 1,500 musicians, combined elementary, high, band, choir, and orchestra, in Peoria for a weekend of rehearsals and clinics, culminating in the All-State Festival concerts on Saturday, February 1st. Additionally, Mr. Mike West, Fine Arts Department Chair, was also selected to present a session at this conference titled Getting the Gig Need to Knows for Applying and Interviewing for Your First Teaching Job. He will present to an audience mostly comprised of young pre-service music teachers, helping to inspire the next generation of educators on Friday, January 31st. The State Seal of Biliteracy is an award given to high school students who have demonstrated language proficiency in English and another language. All public Illinois colleges and universities must give college credit for the Seal of Biliteracy. The seal is also an official way of acknowledging biliteracy on a resume or hiring platform like LinkedIn. Many employers seek out or strongly prefer candidates who are biliterate. Earning the seal would give students a leg up among other applicants in the job market, as well as opening a larger pool of potential jobs or fields to enter. Last year, 23 students earned the Illinois State Seal of Biliteracy. This year, 64 students have earned the seal so far. We expect the number to increase with the second testing window in March. We are incredibly proud of the student interest and success rate in attaining this prestigious award. One of the ways to do that is to score a 3, 4, or 5 on the language exams. There's 2 or 3 ways to do it. We are excited that the increased communication efforts led by Danny Navarro, World Language Department Chair, through student-friendly digital presentations, classroom visits to language classes, and presentations at parent meetings contributed to more students taking the exams and achieving this accomplishment. Below are recently received donations. You can see these in your superintendent's update. We are notifying the board in compliance with board policy. A thank you letter will be sent from the district to each donor. For the beach family event, I'm going to forego reading out each one, but I will call out the supporters: Meyer, Buffalo Wild Wings, Walmart, Jewel, Love and Oven, Germanos, Los Camales, Dunkin' Donuts, States Farm, Tony's Market, Boy Scouts, T-Cross Inc., Not Just Cookies, and Twisted Burger. Thanksgiving in a Box and 15 Coats, Fill a Heart for Kids, also donated to Beach School families. 360 backpacks, Kids in Needs Foundation went to Beach School. $500 check in school and winter supplies, Enchanted Learning for Village. $5 Dunkin' gift cards for students, High School Nation to Round Lake High School. $500 Buffalo Wild Wings gift card donated by the Chicago Bears to Round Lake High School. That concludes the superintendent's update.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. Any questions in regards to the superintendent's report? Hearing none, we will transition to the Finance Committee update.
All right. Yes, Finance Committee met earlier this evening. On the agenda, we had for the 2 middle schools, for John T. McGee and Round Lake Middle, a motivational speaker by Kevin Atlas. So again, it's collaboration continues with the 2 middle schools. They're bringing in the same guest speaker. I would recommend you could Google the speaker if you're interested in seeing a bit of what he'll be speaking to with the students. Definitely a good speaker. So look forward to him speaking with our middle school population. Next, we had an intergovernmental cooperation agreement for mutual assistance in response to crisis for public schools of Lake County. This is a collaboration was brought forward by Lake County Regional Office of Education that includes those schools in Lake County. This intergovernmental agreement does have an administration fee of $250. So the question surrounding that because most intergovernmentals, we don't usually have some type of fee associated, is really to cover some of the safety tools like vests that will be needed. So this will be for when schools that are part in this intergovernmental agreement for any crisis that would come forward, schools needing assistance with each other, anything from what I don't want to say that happens in schools or any kind of natural disasters that happen. So far, schools that have come to the agreement are Antioch, Gavin, Lake Villa, Grant, Big Hollow, and Grays Lake. This would come forward, or this is on the agenda to speak to today as well. My apologies, I forgot to mention the motivational speaker will come forward in January. Also on the agenda, we had Horizon Education ACT High School contract. This was brought forward by Teaching and Learning as we continue to improve post-secondary readiness for our students. And as we do the ACT, this will help to start working through the integration and professional development for our staff. This will be paid for out of Title I money. And they want to move forward with this because they want to start doing this in the spring. Next, we had Catalyst for Education Change contract. If you recall, Dr. Apgar did a presentation based on the findings for our special education department. This would come in to help our special education department with the assessment and those changes that need to take place. And that will come forward next month as well. On the agenda later this evening, there is a presentation by Dr. Apgar in regards to a contract employee. Next, we have independent contractor agreement. This is for the finance department. As you know, the finance is going through a bit of a transition. And then also in this transition, we also are implementing a new software with Skyward. We call it Q for short. I honestly cannot pronounce that name. That's in the memo. So we're utilizing someone in Northbrook who has gone through this implementation in their district. So they've been a great resource for us. Again, we're also short a person in the business department. Again, as I mentioned, we're going through a transition. So this person has been, will be a great resource as we go through this implementation. And then, of course, we have the tax levy, which, we had the presentation earlier. And again, that will be on the agenda later. And as I mentioned, after that review and with the board's approval, that would be submitted to Lake County tomorrow. Also, we went through some staffing position control changes for the 2025-2026 school year. It really is a net zero neutral cost change, taking to some of our positions so that way we can get them more in the building, instructional coaches in each building with a lot of the new curriculum changes that we have coming forward. And then I know it is later on the agenda, so I won't spoil all the surprise. But you remember we talked previously about Round Lake Middle School getting a new gym sound system. McGee currently has one, so this is in place. And I know Mr. Kozak will talk regarding that, but it will happen over winter break, so that we'll have the two middle schools more aligned. And that was everything on the agenda as far as informational items. Again, you heard Dr. Lamping talk about the new trucks. Anything I missed or any questions? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you for that. And that'll take us to approval of open meeting minutes.
I need a motion to approve the December 2nd, 2024 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the following items. The accounts payable report for $999,753.70. The previous motions report for $228,823.85. The November 2024 Treasurers Report, the November 2024 P-Card Report, and the December 16th, 2024 Employment Report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Hearing no questions, roll call please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to our old business. And first up on old business is the second reading and adoption of board policies. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Bennett and anything you want to highlight for us before we go into the approval? All right, hearing none.
All right, I need a motion to approve the identified listed board policies listed in the memo.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that brings us to the school calendar for 25-26. Any questions from the board in regards to what was presented?
All right, I need a motion to approve the 2025-2026 school calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is the tax levy. Any questions from the board in regards to what we saw in the earlier presentation?
All right, I need a motion to approve the 2024 tax levy, which is in compliance with the Truth in Taxation Act requirements, and direct the chief financial officer to execute all required documents.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to new business. And first up on new business is the intergovernmental cooperation agreement that we heard about in the finance update. And that would be Mr. Fink.
So I'll cover that one.
Okay, thank you.
There's really not a lot more to it than Mrs. Negretti already shared. Any specific questions related to the agreement that the board has?
Hearing none.
I need a motion for the approval of the intergovernmental cooperation agreement for mutual assistance in response to crisis in the public schools of Lake County, Illinois.
So moved.
Second.
No motion, sorry.
Oh, never mind.
It was just informational.
I take that back.
I do too. I redact.
All right, then we will move to the second one, which was the approval of board member travel reimbursements for the joint annual conference of November.
This one, there's action. I need a motion for approval for board member travel reimbursement for the joint annual conference held in November 2024 in the amount of $2,635.30.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, second by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Ms. Lee? Yes. Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, next up is Dr. Apgar.
So this request is to fill a vacant teaching position for the Learning Appropriate Behavior classroom at Indian Hill Elementary with a contractual employee. This request will result in expenditures in the amount of roughly $68,000. We have been working since November of 2023 to fill this position with a district employee and have been unable to do so and are looking to fill the position with a contractual employee.
So this was covered in finance, and I know the gasp of, we've been trying to fill this, and I can speak to that. Our lab, our learning appropriate behavior classrooms, those are tough classes, and they're hard positions either to fill or to keep a person in that position. And, you know, of course, we asked all those questions like, what are we doing to fill that position? And they have tried, and they have had some district employees, they just have not stayed. But one of the questions that, you know, came out of finance, as, you know, we know some of the college commencements have started to happen for those new teachers. How are we reaching out to those colleges and to those students who are graduating? How can we reach out to hopefully get those prospective teachers? And I know, you know, we're working with our HR department to kind of get those processes again. Since COVID, we just haven't been doing that as much. But we look forward to hearing about that in the spring of how our HR department will start reaching out and doing site visits to recruit teachers at universities. But, you know, obviously we need to have this position filled. Those students do need some regularity and instructor. So this is what we can have, but they are continuing to make sure we try to fill this position.
Any additional questions for the administration? Hearing
Right.
none.
Need a motion for the approval with Aquara Healthcare Services LLC to provide special education teacher to fill the vacant learning appropriate behavior teacher position at Indian Hill Elementary.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, second by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we are to the aforementioned Round Lake Middle School gym sound system.
Good evening. The contract in front of you is to provide a robust solution for the Round Lake area school sound system. Christine Kenyon, our AV specialist, has done extensive work working with vendors in the AV space to get 3 proposals. The one in front of you is the one we are recommending to move forward with for $104,253. Our partners in TNL believe that the equipment and shipping cost will be eligible for Title I grants in the tune of just over $79,000, leaving a balance of $29,000 for the district to pick up in district funds. As Annette McGinley mentioned earlier, we previewed this in finance this evening, and we are ready for the vendor to come out over break and put this solution in over this winter break. Everything's been locked and loaded except for approval this evening.
So again, as I mentioned in the finance reports, we reviewed this in finance. We'll get this completed over winter break, and again, it'll give that equity we need between the two middle schools. All right.
Hearing no additional questions.
I need a motion for the approval of accident solutions proposals totaling $104,253.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dever?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to positive occurrences.
Okay, I know I'm sorry. Everybody's going to use this, but the Winter Spectacular was amazing. And this is me bragging a little bit, but I had both of my children have like solos in that. And it was so lovely to see the teachers support them. My son is a very kind of quiet, shy person. So to see under their encouragement him do a drum solo was just insane. And it just speaks to the level of kind of educators we have here at the school. And it was just lovely to see the level of professionalism that they put on. It was just amazing. It was like an outstanding show. So I know I'm sorry because everybody's going to say that, but it was, even just from the perspective of a parent who had students involved in it, it was just really well done. So
Just to add to that, I want to thank the board, the investment in the sound system and the lights. I mean, I think about our performances 12 years ago and then I see now, and it's just different. The quality and the best part is many of our kids are going from the choir to the band, back to the choir, back to the band. It was really, really nice.
they even had the kids doing the lights, which I thought was super cool. That was just like another kind of awesome thing. So
Yes, to piggyback on that, I attended 2.5 of the shows, and they just did an amazing job. And from top to bottom, and behind the scenes to on the stage, the volunteers, the staff, the students, the parents, the boosters, it was really great. The decorations were fabulous. The lights were fabulous. The solos were very impressive. It is my favorite show of the year, and I hope even when I don't have a child performing, I intend to come back and watch this show over and over again, as many people do. And I love seeing administrators and teachers and people, old board members, come back. That's how impressive this show is. It's really, really great. It's spectacular.
Yeah, so again, the Winter Spectacular, I attended and volunteered as well. So it's always great to see our fine arts students. And I remember 12 years ago as well, and it keeps getting better and better and better. So again, just appreciation to our fine arts program and the boosters who helped pull that off. Also, additionally, I volunteered, and my family as well, at the Santa's Workshop that is now held with the Education Foundation. So again, that was another great opportunity to be with our students and watch and help them. And then just to mention, I know they mentioned this at the Santa's Workshop. The Education Foundation is always accepting donations to help fund that Santa's Workshop, and you can go to their website if anybody wants to make a donation. And then the last thing I have is, if you recall the last board meeting, Mr. Carroll's did a presentation for athletics, and he mentioned the Panther Peak performance, and he invited any board member to go that following day. Well, I did, and it was great. I think it's really good that our athletes or he's created this and they're doing this with our athletes. So I think it's really good. So if you do get an opportunity, I know it's on Mondays, just that week was off for the Tuesday. It's like 3:30. So if you get the opportunity, I know it's hard with schedules. Again, I was able to go, but it is great if you have the opportunity to go.
Also, one side note, Logan that was highlighted tonight did an amazing guitar solo in the spectacular. Also, all 3 nights. I don't know if you guys get a chance to see it, but he was outstanding. I just like to highlight it because that kid he's in jazz band and he's really a lovely testament to our students.
They took everything I was gonna say, so it's all good. I mean,
Yeah, no,
it's just
I'm with you.
awesome, man.
I'm with you.
And I'm really excited to see. I know the kids are probably nervous, but we're going to finals this week, and our high school students are doing finals for the first time, where everyone has to take a final. And I was talking with Mr. Peterson, and some of the kids are getting nervous, but I know they're going to do an awesome job because we're working on setting them up for before they get to college and stuff. So, just a shout out to all of our teachers who are powering through this week. We can get to Friday, people.
All right. Hearing nothing from anyone else, we will move forward then to future agenda items. Anyone have future agenda items they'd like to have added to future agenda?
So,
Agendas.
so I do. It doesn't necessarily have to be an agenda item, but if you recall when Dr. Apgard did the presentation with the therapy dogs, I had asked if we are including that in our summer program. Just want to give enough notice to if we can find out if we will include our therapy dogs in our summer program. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a future agenda, but just a follow-up.
All right. So then we will move to, I need a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by statute 5 ILCS 120/2 for the purpose of discussing the following. Employment matters, 5 ILCS 120/2C1. Litigation, 5 ILCS 120/2C11. Closed meeting minutes, 5 ILCS 120/2C21. And real estate matters, 5 ILCS 120/2C5.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mrs. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. That will take us to closed session. We do not have any open session afterwards, no action. So that'll end our evening online. Thank you all for attending today and have a very Merry Christmas. And we will see you after the Christmas break, and Happy New Year and very happy holidays to all.